In May of this year, 4 16-year-old boys drove to a house in Tochigi Prefecture, broke in, and stabbed a 69-year-old woman to death. The boys were from Kanagawa, which is south of Tokyo, about 150 kilometers away. They had never been to this house before, nor did they know the woman inside. They had only met the couple who sent them there for the first time that same morning. In the parking lot of a convenience store where they were given a white luxury sedan and a list of instructions on their phones. The couple, Kaito Takemae and his wife, Miyu, both in their mid-20s, were arrested a few days later. Kaito was caught at Haneda Airport, allegedly about to leave the country. The 4 boys told investigators they had been threatened. If they were to back out, the couple said they would harm their families. The police believe there is even someone above this couple controlling everything. Someone who never went near Tochigi Prefecture and might not even be in Japan at all. This is what organized crime in Japan looks like after the Yakuza. Not quite how I would have pictured it. I always imagined a Yakuza boss that was just out there openly, but nobody was ever able to catch him because he was simply too powerful. But times have changed. This extremely underground type of crime ring is very far from that idea of the Yakuza. And to understand exactly where this new problem came from, you do actually have to look at how the Yakuza ended. Japan used to have some of the most visible organized crime in the world. The Yakuza, including their bosses, were typically known by the police and just people of the local area. They had office buildings, business cards, websites, basically any other thing that a normal company might have. It was pretty clear they weren't trying to hide their existence. During their peak in the 1960s, they had around 184,000 members, some of them even registered with the police. The National Police Agency literally listed Yakuza headquarters addresses on their website. The Sumiyoshi-kai, one of the biggest groups, had their main office in Akasaka, which is a pretty nice part of Tokyo and is not too far from the Parliament building. The Yakuza operated in this weird sort of gray zone for most of the 20th century. They did criminal things, obviously, but they also had a sort of social role. They showed up after natural disasters, they hosted events, and they maintained order in their territories in a way that was at least predictable to the police and the people of the local area. The Japanese government tolerated them for a long time as it was considered risky to completely outlaw them. This goes for most things, but once you outlaw it, it becomes a lot harder to track, obviously. At the worst, you could completely drive them underground and lose the ability to monitor them. So to prevent that, there was a deal. If the Yakuza was to exist, they would have to be regulated. But they would have the freedom to conduct business given it wasn't too out of hand. That deal started around 1992 when Japan passed the Act for Prevention of Unlawful Activities by Criminal Gang Members. That's a mouthful. Wow. This basically gave police the ability to arrest bosses for crimes their underlings had committed. Which this was a huge deal, because prior to this, the Yakuza bosses were pretty insulated from any sort of arrests. They could kind of say, well, I didn't do that thing, so you can't arrest me. And they were really set up for that sort of business where the bosses were just pretty much immune to anything. Because of that, they didn't really have to hide much. Who cares if one of the underlings gets arrested, the bosses will be fine. They would throw some orders at them and it would rarely come back to bite the higher-ups. But again, that started changing in 1992, and even after that, laws just continued to flow in and change up how the Yakuza worked. Banks were banned from doing transactions with known gang members, auto dealerships were banned from selling cars to Yakuza. By 2011, essentially the entirety of Japan had made it illegal to not just be a Yakuza, but have anything to do with them. Even if you were just a businessman who was trying to do a completely legal deal with them, it would still be illegal because they are Yakuza. Here's a good example of how outlawed Yakuza are now. In 2025, 4 men were arrested in Tokyo for operating a Yakuza office too close to a library. And the suspects of this were between 55 and 70 years old. So the government's plan had worked. Yakuza memberships fell from almost 184,000 to just 20,000 in 2024. And that's not to mention how careful those 20,000 need to be in present day. The Yamaguchi-gumi, which was at one point one of the largest criminal organizations in the entire world, went from over 10,000 members in 2014 to around 3,300 by the end of last year. They spent 30 years going after pretty much any part of the Yakuza infrastructure, and I would say it worked. Kind of. At least to get rid of the traditional Yakuza. But not without leaving the critical flaw that I had mentioned previously. The Yakuza, for all their crimes and bad deeds, had one thing that made them manageable for law enforcement. They were easy to monitor. The police knew where they were, they knew their faces, addresses probably, and some of them had reputations that they actually cared about in the community. But those very things become a problem when the police are actively hunting them and trying to shut them all down. What replaced the Yakuza was devoid of any of that recognizability. The National Police Agency coined the terms themselves Tokuryu, which combines tokume, meaning anonymous, and ryudo, meaning fluid. Anonymous and fluid, which is their entire business model. These Tokuryu groups have no fixed membership, no territory, no tattoos, no initiation, no Yakuza outward-facing public things. They very rarely meet in person, and when you combine that with the extremely little amount of information on them, it becomes nearly impossible to track them. They assemble for a specific crime and then they essentially gloopify and then go run back into a storm drain, and boom, they're gone. It's as the name describes, they are anonymous and fluid. But even though it is extremely hard to find them, way harder than traditional Yakuza, that doesn't mean they are impossible to find. In 2024, Tokuryu-related arrests exceeded Yakuza arrests for the first time in recorded history. Over 12,000 people were arrested in 2025 alone for crimes connected to these groups, up from around 10,000 the year before. Though even with this large number of arrests, they are still managing to steal billions of yen. Fraud losses linked to Tokuryu in 2024 came to roughly 70 billion yen, around 450 million US dollars. And that number will likely continue to grow each year. After all, most of these arrests are just from the underlings, so they'll just go get more of them. But unlike the Yakuza, they don't have business cards and they don't have any sort of ties to the community, so how are they actually recruiting people? How do you grow an organization with no identity? You post a job listing. It sounds super mundane, but that's what they do. This sort of work can be referred to as yamibaito. The word baito pinpointing an important part of these jobs. The word is very common in Japanese, just meaning a part-time job, likely taken on by someone that needs money. Attach that to the kanji yami in front, meaning darkness, and you get yamibaito, dark job. So the term yamibaito refers to criminal job recruitment disguised as an ordinary part-time gig. These listings can be found all over the internet, from social media to just normal job sites. They keep the job vague until they're able to lure someone somewhere, and then they essentially kidnap them. They might say something like, high-paying work, no experience needed, flexible hours, immediate cash. Which, if you're young and already looking for a part-time job, it doesn't appear to be much different from any other posts when you are probably sending a message to 100 different ones. And that's the point. They lure people in with a pretty ordinary looking job. They keep the whole application process relatively normal, but even so, there are signs. For instance, they reportedly use specifically Telegram a lot, but even this, there could just be a normal employer that likes Telegram, I guess. I don't know. Most of the stuff I've seen isn't too crazy though. It's just like, can we get a picture of your ID? Which isn't really too weird, so people give it to them. They just frame it as a routine verification. However, the problem is it is not a routine verification. You are essentially giving them blackmailing material. Once you've submitted those documents, if you get cold feet and try to back out, they may threaten to leak your information or hurt you. Some people even get explicit messages saying their parents may be harmed. And all of that is if you haven't already been physically kidnapped in person. The teens in the Tochigi case, the 16-year-olds, told investigators that they had been threatened with exactly this sort of thing. They were told that their parents would be harmed if they did not comply. This simple sort of blackmailing, it doesn't really require you to get to know the person. If you want to blackmail someone like this, you don't exactly have to be a charismatic cult leader. You don't really need to show them your face or any information about you, which makes it perfect for them because they're having them commit crimes. So say this person gets caught robbing a house, they have no clue what to tell the police. I talked to him on Telegram, here's my Telegram. Yeah, I don't know if they're really going to be able to catch the person from just one Telegram account. And also it's much quicker. Manipulating someone may take a long time. Simply just getting some of their information and saying, I'm gonna kill you, it only takes 10 minutes, I don't know, however long it takes to get the information. It's just one moment of naive application and boom, you're in. The clearest example of how this works at scale is an example that became famous a couple years ago, which I actually did not see at the time. Between the summer of 2021 and January 2023, a crime ring carried out over 50 robberies across 14 different prefectures in Japan, mostly home invasions on elderly victims. The total losses were in the billions of yen. The senior members were coordinating multiple simultaneous crime operations across Japan, all while being held in Philippine immigration detention, using smuggled phones and encrypted messaging apps, never setting foot near any of the actual crimes committed. Again, because they were in a detention center. Good job, Philippines. In January 2023, 4 of their operatives broke into a house in Komae, Tokyo. The victim was 90 years old, and she died during that robbery. The Japanese authorities had been building the case for months. They requested the suspect's deportation from the Philippines, and in February 2023, all 4 ringleaders, Imamura, Watanabe, and 2 others were put on flights to Japan. 2 of them from the group have received life sentences, and one of them was specifically for being a remote coordinator, which the judge agreed with, describing the crimes as a new form of organizational crime carried out by remote control. The Luffy group was dismantled, but they were only a piece of the problem. A senior NPA official said in a 2026 press conference that identifying the true leadership of Tokuryu groups remains one of their core investigative challenges. The people getting caught represent roughly 75% of arrests. The people running the operations, though, represent fewer than 2%. So Japan has spent almost 40 years dismantling the Yakuza just for something much worse to replace it. That is it. If you did enjoy the video, please do like and subscribe. It is greatly appreciated. Thanks, bye-bye. I hope you liked my Yakuza cosplay. I don't know if I should have buttoned this one up. I probably should have buttoned that one up. Okay, that reveals a little too much of my chest. Well, I hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.